We've got Robert Wagner here from Little Wretches. How are you today?
I'm doing really well, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, how would you describe the sound of the music that you make?
Well, it cuts across a lot of genres. Mostly I'm playing with an acoustic guitar and performing solo. And the
Yeah.
band's been around a long time. The album that's out now, even though people always say the Little Wretches, they're like a folk rock group, but people hear it say, no, that's more like a cross between the Clash and the B-52s. It's pretty high energy, pretty spirited. And I say, I'll take that. I'll take a comparison to the Clash and the B-52s.
Yeah. Do you take a lot of inspiration from them?
Um, yeah, I kind of do. I I can say that I was first in the room at one of the Clash's first shows in the United States back when I was very young and dreaming about maybe punk rock made it possible for people like me to think that we could start bands.
Yeah.
And no bands ever came to Pittsburgh. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Pittsburgh's reputation has changed. But back in the day, all the good bands went to Cleveland. So we drove up to Cleveland to see the Clash, and it was freezing cold. We got there
Oh,
really early, and we snuck in through the stage door. And then we see these guys coming, running into the theater in all this like army gear. It's like, who are these posers? It's like, that's the Clash. So we were there for their sound check. We were like the only guys in the room for the Clash's sound check. So I could say I might have been among the first 10 people in America to hear the Clash live, you know?
that's quite an incredible achievement. Was it worth bracing the cold for it then?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, we were everybody from Pittsburgh. Even though we were in Cleveland, the first three rows were all people from Pittsburgh, packed in, very high energy level. If you weren't around for those days, I don't even know if you can imagine. But if you see like any of the old videos of like the kids pogoing and all of that, that's the kind of energy it was really. And people that didn't know about it, they were scared of it. Now you see people with pink hair and mohawks everywhere. That's like you go to a business casual workplace and that's how people are dressed. But in those days, that was a little bit of
Yeah.
a risk. But it was so fun. The people were so nice and gentle and good spirited for as fierce as they may have looked.
Yeah. And you started off in the band No Shelter, of course, in the early punk scene. How did that come about?
Well, I mean, that's all I've ever wanted to do was play in a band. I just didn't think it was
Yeah.
possible. So thank goodness that punk rock happened and said, yes, you too can do it. If we can do it, you can do it. And
Yeah.
so that's really it. And it turned out my roommate, we were both involved in radical politics. It turned out he was like the best musician in the city. Little did I know. So we had a pretty powerful little band.
Yeah. And when you were growing up, what exactly was it that kick-started the fire in you to get into music?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I just always heard when I would get together with the kids in our neighborhood and my cousins, we always were playing little 45s and LPs on these little kitty scratchy record players, and we would try to make musical instruments out of boards and nails and rubber bands. And uh, back when I was growing up, when you turned 9 years old, you were supposed to learn a musical instrument. I wanted to play the drums, but my mom said drums were too expensive and they made too much noise. But would you mind playing the guitar? So, I'll gladly play the guitar. And of course, the guitar, has been my best friend. It's saved, music. I like to say would saved my life.
Wow.
Where did the fire come from? I think I was born with the fire.
Yeah.
Uh, music was the thing that gave me the best opportunity to, spread the fire, light the fire.
Absolutely. And music just is a fire in itself and has a lot of power. I mean, you mention it saving your life. Do you think that music is a necessary part of everybody's life?
Oh, well, I think, if they could only teach one a subject in school, it should be music.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think if music didn't exist and you were born, if you were born and raised by wolves, you would invent music spontaneously.
Yes.
I think that it's that much part of us. Uh,
So if music never existed,
it,
somebody would have invented it still.
the, the first human being w- probably, if there was an Adam and Eve had music.
Yeah, I think it's probably impossible not to just come up with some sort of tune, even if it's accidental, because they'd even discover it somehow.
And, of course, I gather that you might be a little bit of a fanatic. I'm a fanatic. I love music. When I come across people that are like, oh, I have a couple of records. Oh, I listen to music sometimes. Like, what? What's wrong with you? I live and breathe music, and it's just a casual pastime for you. I just don't understand, but.
Yeah, I suppose maybe people's lives get in the way and they maybe don't have the time. That's the only defense I can think of. I blame the parents.
Are you familiar? You probably know a lot about Patti Smith.
Yeah, Patti Smith group, Because the Night.
Yeah, Patti Smith group. When I was growing up, because she was actually even a couple of years ahead of punk rock. When I was a kid, I read a quote from her. She said, "Rock and roll is the highest form of communication known to man."
Yeah.
And, I heard that and I said, if Patti says it, it must be true.
For sure.
Might not be, but I've lived my life with that premise.
Yeah, I think that is probably true. And your latest album, can you tell us a bit about that? What's it called?
Well, it's called Undesirables and Anarchists.
Oh.
And of course, when I wrote the title Undesirables and Anarchists comes from a line on the album. There's a song called All of My Friends, and the lyric goes, "All of my friends are on somebody's list of undesirables and anarchists. It's not even safe to admit that you're one of my friends." Of course, we wrote that and recorded it before all this weird stuff in the States started to happen.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow, things have even become more polarized. You could be an undesirable, or you can be an anarchist if you live over here. I got friends in both camps, so I can't lose.
Well, speaking of weird things happening, how's it been during the pandemic for you? Have you had to sort of cancel gigs, or have you embraced the opportunity to stay at home and have time to write?
Back when the pandemic, when the lockdown started here in the States, I had a tour of the Pacific Northwest, Oregon, Washington, planned, so that and just one by one, because people started telling me, "Well, you're going to get on an airplane? You're crazy!" Like nothing is going to stop me. And then one by one, the venues start notifying you that we will not be open that night. Sorry, we'll have to recancel. And then I thought, okay, this is going to be a couple of weeks. And it's like, no, maybe it's going to be a couple of months. And then people start saying, oh, no, we're never going back. This is the new normal. So, but this sitting in front of a laptop and playing to your picture, it just doesn't work. I played a live in-person show back in Pittsburgh last month, and that's how it's meant to be.
Yeah, I think so, because you buy a ticket to see somebody on Zoom and it's like, well, you can't really say you've seen this person play live unless you've actually been there, right?
No, the experience is not the same. And I don't, to me, it's not even a necessary compromise. I think, look, I'm not a scientist. I'll obey the law. If my neighbors are afraid to be within 6 feet of me, I'll make sure I don't get within 6 feet of them. But I think if you're in an at-risk community, if you're elderly and you have pre-existing medical conditions, you got to worry. Somebody like me, I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are now starting to take that viewpoint because we've been in this for ages, and maybe that's the best option, a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah, and where I live, have you ever been to the States? You ever been to Philadelphia?
No.
Okay, well, Philadelphia is a pretty incredible place. It's one of the important cities in the foundation of the United States. But I live about a half hour out of the city in what used to be a vacation destination for, I could look out my window, see foxes and deer and bald eagles fly right by my window. So where I live is so idyllic, and I hop in my car and I'm a half hour from, one of the most important cities in the States. So I've got it made here.
Yeah.
If you're going to be locked up somewhere, this is a good place to be locked up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose if you've got a nice place to record music at home, do you? That might be easier?
No.
Oh.
That's one of my problems when it comes to recording music. I've spent so much time listening to bootleg records and unauthorized recordings, somebody who snuck in a recorder to a show. My production values, I'm not a guy for recording. I'm good for writing. I'm good for producing a session, but I need to be in a professional studio with guys at the controls that really know what they're doing. I don't trust myself. I mean, I know. Look, any 12-year-old with a good laptop can make a Grammy Award winning album, but I need to trust a professional engineer with good ears to do the mixing, and I'm too easy to please. Bad stuff sounds good to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably a really good, sensible thing to do, to get somebody who's trained in it and knows what they're doing. Now, I notice you have got your acoustic guitar on you right now, so I take it you play that in the group.
Yeah. My and well, mostly I'm performing solo with an acoustic guitar. Ideally, I'm a pretty good writer. I don't know if you've listened to our catalog at all, but I'm
a few songs.
I'm up there. I can write, and what I would want would be other musicians who are as fluent on their instruments as I am with writing. So I'm the writer. I wrote the song. I accompany myself with guitar, but I'd like to have a lead guitarist, or a violinist, or a flute player who can, take the spotlight and bring something to the table, make it exciting for the audience to listen to. I mean, I can, for me as a guitar player, I have to work out a part.
Yeah.
I have to think it out, imagine it, figure out how to do it, practice it. There are people who can play as spontaneously and fluently as we're talking, and that's what I would really like in my bandmates, people who can play like I can speak.
Yeah, well, do you write your songs as you're playing, or do you write the lyrics first and focus on the tune later?
Well, because I gravitate more with words. A lot of my songs, the words come first, or the music. But it's definitely separate. Every now and then, like there's a song on this album called "Poison," which was getting a lot of spins on Spotify, and that was one of those songs where I just sat down, played it, and sang it, and it almost came out. If the song's 4 minutes long, it took 4 minutes to write. It just came out in complete form. I'm not sure where it came from. That happens every now and then. But it's usually I'll have a musical part that I like. I'll have some lyric lines that I like. And you can't force them together. They just kind of have to fit naturally. It's like, I just came up with some lines that will fit this piece of music that I've been working on.
Yeah.
Or you come up with some music and you say, this will be perfect for those lines I was working on the other day. So they're separate, but then they come together, and they can't be forced.
Yeah, for sure. And have you had any big moments? What are your favourite moments in the times that you've been in music?
Oh, well, that's kind of hard to say. Some of my favorite moments might not even be in performance. They're like the camaraderie and the friendships and the little precious moments off stage, or when you're on your way to a show. There's this brotherhood family thing that happens in a band that people outside of a band can't really understand. I think maybe my favorite moment, we used to have a rehearsal space in a very remote location in the countryside of Western Pennsylvania, in an old like farming and mining town. And after a gig, you'd get out of the club at like maybe 2:30 in the morning. It would take us an hour to get back to the farm. And then just like maybe standing around a bonfire out in the country, not having to worry about annoying the neighbors, with your closest friends and maybe closest, comrades of the band. That's like, those are the magic moments. And then, of course, the other cool thing, as a performer, this will happen to me now. You walk out onto a stage to an audience that doesn't really know you, and it's like, who's this guy? Nobody's paying attention. And then you start to play, and you watch everybody set down their drinks and look up, like, ooh, I didn't expect this. Like, yeah, that's right. You didn't expect it, but so that's like a surprise attack is when people expect nothing and then you blow them away. Yeah. That's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, that must feel great in the not too distant future. Hopefully not too distant, depending on how things go. Do you think you'll have another album or play more gigs?
Yeah, well, I have playing the gigs, what I want to wake up in the morning thinking about where I'm playing tonight. That's the ideal life for me. So,
Yeah.
but the venues have to be open. But so as venues become open, I'll be playing more gigs. I have already uh I have probably 3 albums worth of material that could be released. So but I'm in my head right now. The album that is out is doing pretty well. So I want to put something out that will, uh, whatever new listeners we've gained. I want something consistent with that.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe in the spring a brand new album.
Nice.
Uh, but it's things are kind of funny now. Some of the best musicians I know don't even want to be in. I've heard of people trying to collaborate through meetings like this. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to get everybody in a room, play music together. Uh, that's so it's going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of charm,
Mm.
a little bit of blessing, but it'll happen.
Yeah, for
I mean, I
sure.
have the songs. The songs are written. The songs are ready to go.
Yeah. Well, where are we able to check out the music that you have released then?
Well, we're on all of the. If you stream music anywhere, Apple Music, Spotify, all of that, YouTube, all of the studio albums. There's a lot of live footage up at YouTube that people have captured. I mean, they're not. It's not authorized. We didn't release it. I didn't release
Yeah.
it, but it's available on YouTube. But littlewretches.com and look us up on Facebook. Those are the two main places.
Great.
Just Little Wretches.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.